What is a font, and why should I care? Let's start with some definitions. Font is a common term when talking about typography, but the word font actually has a more specific meaning than what we normally think of. The other word that's important to know is typeface. So what's the difference between typeface and font? Typeface is the overall style, and font is the variation on that style. So for example, Calistoga, Playfair, and Montserrat are all typefaces. But within Montserrat, there are Montserrat Thin, Normal, Black, Bold, Italic, all different variations on that same typeface. Usually this doesn't matter when talking generally, but we'll be getting into some specifics. Now let's back up. Why should you care about typeface and font in the first place? Here are a few things I want you to think about for a second. Do you choose different fonts? Why? In what situations? Or maybe you just go with what the default font is on each program. That's totally fine. But why do you think these specific fonts were chosen as the defaults? In my opinion, there are three main reasons to care about typeface and font: aesthetics, structure, and legibility. The first is aesthetics. You might think my page or my course or my site doesn't need to be pretty, it just needs to work. But even for the most cut and dry subjects, aesthetics matter. You might think that a machine as straightforward as an ATM wouldn't need an aesthetically pleasing interface. But actually, a study that compared two ATMs showed that the ATM with the better looking interface worked better. The authors wrote, "The user may be strongly affected by the aesthetic aspect of the interface, even when they try to evaluate the interface in its functional aspects." And designers should strive not only to improve the inherent usability, but also the aesthetic aspect of the interface. In other words, interfaces that look better function better. When we're working with words, typeface and font make up a big part of the aesthetics. Aesthetics is relative, of course, and we'll talk about when to use which fonts. The next thing typography helps with is structure. Take a look at this page. Not the content, just the structure. What do you think? There's nothing wrong with it. We can read through it without any problem. And because paragraphs and spacing are used well, we can even skim it pretty easily. But if I just change the typeface of the headings, the structure becomes more apparent. And then of course we can change the size and bold them so that sections are even more clearly defined. By the way, the easiest and best way to do this is by using heading styles, which we'll learn about in another video. The point is that changing typeface and font can bring out the structure of the page and make it much easier to read. The last reason we should care about font and typeface is legibility. The main purpose of fonts is to be read, right? But there's different kinds of reading. Which of these two words draws your attention? Even though it's farther down the page, this one probably did a better job. Alright, now take a few seconds to read each of these paragraphs. That's a different kind of reading, and now the first one does a better job. Every typeface is designed with a purpose, and you can improve the legibility of your documents by choosing the right typeface and font for the right occasions. So that's an overview about why I care about typeface and fonts, and by now I hope you do too.